YouTube, how's it going? It's your guy Nutzypoo back with another video today, and we are finally here. MLB the Show 23 is here, and we are finally able to get around to our rebuild franchise. Any of you guys who watched the last video saw that we used a random wheel to spin, and it came up with the Oakland Athletics. And I have to be honest, this might be one of the hardest rebuild franchises we've ever done. This team is completely devoid of talent. And even worse, there's no talent in the minor leagues either. So you guys are going to have to stick around and see how we play this over the next handful of years. And yes, this is going to be a multi-year rebuild. No way you can turn this around in 1 year. I know I talked in the previous video about the potential of maybe moving this team to Vegas, maybe giving them a new stadium in Oakland. I'm still trying to figure it out. So first of all, the first year, we're just going to play in the Coliseum. That's realistic. I think the A's are going to end up moving to Las Vegas in real life, but unfortunately, because MLB The Show did not add the ability to use covered stadiums or domed stadiums in Stadium Creator, I don't think that there's a realistic way to move the A's to Vegas. It's 120 in Vegas during the summers. There's no way they would ever build a stadium that was not covered in some way. And the fact that you can't do that in MLB The Show basically means it would break the immersion. Now, I will look online in the vault to see if I can find any good stadiums for maybe if they were to stay in Oakland. That's always a possibility, but for right now, we're going to stick it out in Oakland. We're going to stick in the Coliseum. We'll see what happens in year 2, 3, and beyond. I'm excited about this one, man. Franchise mode got some much needed love in this year's version of the game, so I'm excited to jump into this, see how it goes. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video. If you want, share it with a friend and hit that subscribe button. We're well over 3,000 subs, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this series. Let's get into it. Let's check out the roster. Looking at this roster, you have to be absolutely shocked at the lack of talent they have. Over the last 3 years, you have to remember, they had Frankie Montas, they had Sean Manaea, they had Matt Chapman, they had Matt Olson, they had Sean Murphy, they had Lou Trevino. All incredible players. And somehow, they traded them all and brought back no talent in return. It's one of the most shocking and head-scratching things I've ever seen. And when I go back and think about it, because obviously I don't follow the Oakland A's super closely, I'm just really going back and looking at them right now and getting ready for this franchise. The fact that they turned those players into no one is jarring. When you look at the MLB pipeline ratings for top prospects, the Oakland Athletics only have 2 top 100 prospects after trading 5 of the best players in Major League Baseball, especially in Chapman and Olson. And when they traded both of those guys, they were considered top tier, top flight guys. And then you look at the Sean Murphy trade, and Sean Murphy was literally a Gold Glove caliber catcher at a position of extreme importance around the league. It's just mind-numbing, man. As far as the top 100 MLB pipeline rankings, they have 2. They have Tyler Soderstrom, who is a first base catcher hybrid. I know they're really, really high on him. I like his hit tools. I think he could be a really, really good player. And they have Ken Waldichuk, who's a left-handed pitcher who's currently ranked at number 76 in the top 100 ratings. But let's go ahead and take a look at this roster. The major league rotation is not going to be very good. Paul Blackburn is your ace. That's not a good start. James Caprillion, Kyle Mueller, Ken Waldichuk here is going to start the year in the majors, one of their top prospects like I just mentioned. Dalton Jeffries is going to be vying for the 5th starter slot with Hogan Harris. Ryan Cusick is an interesting one here. He's a B potential player, but I don't think I'm going to want him to come up super, super early. I generally like to let my pitchers develop into the low 70s before I bring them up to the major league roster, unless we are really, really hurting for pitchers. I know the A's are, but I would also really not like to, destroy their, the confidence that he has. I should mention Kyle Mueller, according to MLB Pipeline, is their 5th rated prospect in their system. So he could turn into a fairly good player as well. Looking back through here farther, you have Gunnar Hoagland, who could be a solid prospect. I mean, we'll take B potential. He's only 23 years old, which is always a plus. But outside of that, you have Luis Medina, who's 23, only 61 overall B potential. Outside of that, there's a lot of D and C potentials in their starting pitchers. The bullpen has some pieces. Zach Jackson is a decent reliever. He's only 28 years old. If he's performing really well, this might be a potential trade candidate. Obviously, he's not going to be around in our contending window, so we're going to have to look to get some value out of that. Outside of that, you see a lot of 60 overall, 50 overall relievers. Not good, not good. You do have Trevor May, which is an interesting signing for them. Trevor May is obviously way up there in age. He's another one that if he performs well leading up to the All-Star break, he'll get shipped out of town to a contender who really needs a reliever for a decent prospect haul, if I had to take a guess. For catchers, you have Manny Pena and Shea Langoliers. I know the Oakland Athletics have been really, really high on Shea Langoliers. They expected him to do really, really good things. And hopefully he can develop, especially with Sean Murphy being out of town. But here you have Tyler Soderstrom, and Tyler Soderstrom is a really, really interesting player. He hits lefty, which is a weird anomaly for the catcher position. He's only 21 years old, A potential. He is our catcher of the future. If Shea Langoliers ends up developing a little bit, obviously Shea has the much better arm, so maybe Tyler Soderstrom is more meant for a first base role moving forward. We're going to have to see how they both develop and kind of make that play at that point. At first base, you're hurting. You have Seth Brown. Jesus Aguilar is a good addition from the Miami Marlins. You can see what he does. I really enjoyed playing with him last year in Miami. Any of you guys who saw Miami Marlins franchise, I hit a lot of home runs with Jesus Aguilar. I really, really like his swing. Outside of that, there's a whole lot of nothing in the minor leagues at first base, all D potential prospects. That is not great. At second base, you have Tony Kemp and Jonah Bride. You do have Robert Puason, who was a big part of the Sean Manaea trade, who they hope can develop into something. And you have Max Muncy, who currently, not the Max Muncy that's in LA, but a different Max Muncy, who I believe is currently a top 10 prospect. Yeah, he's their 10th prospect in their system. So maybe he develops into something as well. Both of them 20 years old. Maybe we're looking at our middle infield of the future. At third base, you have Jace Peterson at the major league level. Zach Geloff is one of their high-rated prospects. MLB Pipeline has him rated as their number 3rd rated prospect, so hopefully he can develop and give us some big pop from the right side moving forward. Jeremy Ironman and Kevin Smith, both be potential prospects, both 26 years old though, so they're starting to hit the point where it just doesn't look like they're ever going to develop. That's not a good situation to be in if you're an Oakland Athletic fan. At shortstop, you have Diaz here. Logan Davidson is a B potential prospect. He's 25 years old, though, so he's starting to hit that range of like, okay, it's kind of now or never. He needs to make a big jump into the 70s if he's going to develop into anything with MLB the Show's regression and progression system. In left field, you have JJ Bleday, who they just picked up from the Miami Marlins. He wasn't going to fit in the Miami Marlins outfield. They had too many pieces. He could turn into something special in Oakland if given the opportunity. Now 62 overall, I think that's a little bit lower than he was on MLB the Show's roster. If I remember right, he came up late in our first season of the Miami Marlins franchise. You also have Brent Rooker. Unfortunately, he's 28 years old. It doesn't look like he's ever going to develop into a high tier player. In center field, you have Denzel Clark, who's probably going to be starting at the major league level. Unfortunately, he's C potential. You have Christian Pache, and Christian Pache is one of the really, really disappointing prospects in Major League Baseball. He was a top 100 prospect for the Atlanta Braves, got shipped over to Oakland in the Matt Olson trade, if I remember right, and then just has not done anything at the major league level. He has no ability to hit. He's one of the better defensive outfielders in baseball, but he literally could not hit his way out of a wet paper bag. So, I mean, I'm not expecting a whole lot out of Christian, but he's still young. He still has B potential. He might be able to do something, but it might be you need to send him down and give him a couple more years in the minors. The only big name that they have on this team is Ramon Laureano. He's 28 years old. He's been their franchise player. He's been one of the franchise cornerstones for a long time at this point. B potential. We're going to have to make a decision with regards to Ramon Laureano, unfortunately. Realistically, he's probably going to end up getting traded, and that's going to hurt a lot of A's fans. He's already 28 years old. you can't hang on to players forever, man. And if he can give us something back, an actual decent trade back, unlike all of the previous trades the Oakland A's have made, maybe we can do something there. As far as it goes, that is the roster top to bottom. I'm not looking for a whole lot out of it in year one, honestly. Year one's just going to be about talent acquisition, minor talent acquisition. Obviously, we have a very high draft pick, which is going to be awesome. So a lot of the focus on this franchise is going to be the new scouting, which has been completely overhauled in MLB The Show, and the new drafting, which has been completely overhauled in MLB The Show. I need the A's to draft well. I need the A's to scout well if I have any opportunity to turn this team into something. Now, before we do anything, though, I'm going to go take a look at free agency, because the A's have been really, really quiet in free agency. Obviously, they don't have very much money, which is really a struggle. But I do think that there are some options here in free agency that they could bring in and be like one-year rentals, or maybe guys to hold over until some of the players in the minor leagues can start coming up. Trevor Rosenthal could be a decent bullpen piece. I think I'm going to bring him in on a one-year deal, if he will, maybe 1 year, $3.8 million, and then he might be someone we look to trade at the trade deadline as kind of a 1 year stash and dash type situation. I apparently am going to have to cut some people for my team. Outside of that, another interesting one would be maybe Yuli Gurriel, although Yuli did end up signing somewhere, didn't he? Or am I wrong about that? It does not look like he is. It doesn't look like Yuli Gurriel has signed yet. So Yuli Gurriel could be an interesting person to bring in, along with Miggy Sano. The interesting one about Miggy Sano is we had a massive hole at third base. And if I could bring Miggy Sano in and play third base, which I know is one of his secondary positions at this point, but if he can hold down the hot corner just for a little bit, that might not be a bad decision. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot going on in the free agency pool. Left field, Benito Colon. Benito Colon is interesting. It looks to be an international free agent that's here. We might try to go make a run on him, man. We need some talent. B potential 75 overall. This might help the rebuild very, very quickly. So I think I'm going to go try to take a run on him. Especially because that really gives us something, and he could even start in the majors, which would be awesome. We'd probably start him in AAA just for a little bit. You also have Marco Macias here, see potential, but he's only 19 years old. Do we pick him up to see if maybe he can develop into something? That's always a possibility as well. And then this Julian Dorda with the handlebar mustache is awesome. We might pick him up just to come in as a body, if not for anything else. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot going on. So let's go ahead and go through this, add some like maybe 4 or 5 guys to the roster, and this will make our minor leagues at least not look so devoid of talent. And it does kind of work because you can consider these guys kind of international free agents. It is what it is. It's just MLB The Show for you. All right, so we ended up making some moves. I tried not to go overhand because obviously I don't want this to be a way easier franchise, but there were some people sitting in free agency, and there were some young names sitting in free agency that looked very good. So I figured I'd bring them in and see what they could do. First of all, we brought in Todd Kohler. We saw him. He was an A potential free agent. He's only 19 years old. That will help bolster our top 100 prospects for sure. Along with another one, Jim Smart, who was a B potential, 18 years old. So we brought both of those guys in to give us something. As far as it goes, we also brought in Trevor Rosenthal, who is likely going to be our closer, at least for the early part of the year, until we look to ship him out at the All-Star break to get some prospects in return. We did end up bringing up Miggy Sano, and we're going to actually go and make him a primary third baseman because we need third base. Honestly, we need third base. He's played third base in his career. At least he can give us some pop with his bat. Maybe he does something outside of that, and if he performs well, maybe he ends up getting shipped out. Robbie Shelley was another A-rated prospect that was in free agency, so we picked him up. He's a first base secondary. Looks like he could turn into a really solid player with that A potential. Outside of that, we ended up picking that Benito Colon, who I saw B potential, already a 75 overall at 21 years of age. Left-handed bat will mean a lot in our lineup. He's going to get a lot of play right off the get-go. Not a very good fielder though, which is an issue. And then finally, we did pick up Marco Macias, who's 19 years old. He's a right-handed bat, very good hitter. terrible fielder in center field, so that's going to be a struggle, especially with the new fielding controls. It's really, really going to be difficult to field with some of these guys. But I think those are solid moves. That is the roster we're going to be going into opening day with. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown as I learned the Oakland Athletics roster along with you guys. Next episode will be opening day, where we're finally going to be able to see some of these prospects, see some of these players perform. Paul Blackman's going to be on the mound, so that's what you have to look forward to there. I appreciate you guys. I hope that this is going to be a fun franchise for both you and also for me. We'll see how far we can get into it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video, share it with a friend, hit that subscription button. Also, be sure to follow me over on my other social medias as well, including TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch. We're back to doing very, very regular Twitch streams, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I appreciate you guys again for watching. Be sure to check it out. Peace!